Hello. We are about to read Chapter 4 of Becoming Naomi Leon by Pam Munoz Ryan. Chapter 4 A Memory of Elephants. A floodlight cast a path of brightness straight through the avocado grove. Not that we needed it. Over the years, we had worn a foot trail to Fabiola's front door and could get there blindfolded. Up ahead, the glow lit up the yard like a bright island, and the tree branches seemed like giant black umbrellas over our heads. We passed the chickens, who made gentle clucking sounds as we walked by their makeshift wire coop. Normally we'd stop to pet them, but Graham and Fabiola had a purpose to their walk that said no stopping. They led us into the little clearing toward the flat-roofed house. Lulu, Fabiola's miniature poodle, ran towards us, yapping. Her bobtail wagging back and forth and her black curls shimmying with excitement. Owen picked her up. Bernardo came out of his work shed and stood in the square of the light from the doorway, holding a piece of sandpaper and a short plank of wood. He was barely taller than a fence post, with skin the color of toasted almonds. When he first saw us hurrying toward him, he tipped his straw cowboy hat back on his gray-haired head and smiled wide, not even minding that he was showing us his crooked teeth, some of them pointing sideways. "¿Qué pasó? What happened?" he asked, his smile fading. Fabiola spoke in Spanish, and the words racing off her tongue. She ended the string of sentences by putting her hands on her hips and saying, "Skyla." A body would think that since I was half Mexican, I could speak the language too, but I couldn't. I understood a little just from being around Bernardo and Fabiola all these years, but whenever I tried to copy them, the words felt like marbles moving around in my mouth. Bernardo looked suspiciously around the yard, as if someone might be watching us, and said, "We should go inside." Fabiola and Bernardo's house was wide open and spacious compared to our trailer. It had 3 bedrooms, one of them set up as a full-on sewing room where Graham and Fabiola still did alterations. Currently, they were working every day on a bride's gown and 14 bridesmaids' dresses for a wedding coming up this weekend in December. In the living room, striped crocheted blankets rested on the back of the couch and the chairs. Colorful braided rugs made little bridges from one room to another. Bernardo's bookshelves hung on every wall. Photographs of their 2 sons from high school graduations and in their United States Navy uniforms crowded the end tables, along with school pictures of Owen and me. Without saying a word, we all sat in our spots in the living room. Bernardo in the recliner with Owen on his knee, Fabiola on one corner of the couch and me on the other, with Lulu wriggling between us, and Graham in the straight back rocker. I opened my notebook and waited. Graham said, "Naomi, I am not sure taking notes is in order." "Just in case," I whispered. I didn't want to forget anything important that might be said. Graham took a deep breath. I always worried that this day would come. "What's going to happen?" I asked, my voice barely a breath. "I am not sure," said Graham. "I suppose she has a right to visit you, and you have a right to get to know her. More than that, I want her to see that you kids are healthy and happy and dug in deep here with me. I hope I can remember to call her Skyla. I don't want to get her riled." "The children, she could take them?" asked Fabiola. when she showed up on my doorstep 7 years ago," said Graham. "I didn't know if they'd be with me for a few weeks or a few months. I knew enough to have Skylar write out a letter giving me permission to get them doctors and medicine if they needed, and to enroll them in school and such. But other than that, I don't have a claim to them. Except I raised them. After so many years of her being absent, I added my name to Owen's and Naomi's on all their records and papers, so we'd have a frame for a family. That was just my fancy, not legal-like. Before that, our names had been Owen Soledad Leon and Naomi Soledad Leon. When Graham tagged on her last name, Outlaw, I took it in stride until this year, since it had made her so happy. "She has had a very difficult life," said Fabiola. "Maybe she is growing up now and wants to present herself to Naomi and Owen, and that is why she is here." I thought Fabiola leaned toward Owen's disposition when it came to looking on the bright side of everything. "I would surely like to believe she's changed," said Graham. "Changed?" I said. "Naomi, she was always as temperamental as a bead of water on a hot skillet. I am hoping she has settled some." "You want the children to stay here with us?" asked Bernardo. Graham didn't answer right away. "No, better we're together." She took a deep breath and stood up. "I should get them back in bed and make up that fold-out." Fabiola stood up and gave Graham a big hug. Graham's eyes watered up. Fabiola hugged me and Owen too. Then Bernardo walked us all the way to the edge of the grove. Graham swiped at her eyes in the dark of the trees. I had never once seen Graham cry from sadness, and was not accustomed to seeing her unsettled by her emotions. My insides wobbled as if I was standing on a 3-story roof looking down. After I was in bed, I closed my eyes, but I couldn't sleep. I tried as hard as I could to remember something about my mother. Memories from a place far away in my mind struggled to get to the front of my brain, but they swam in slow motion, stroking through thick syrup toward my clear thinking spot. All that surfaced was my past imaginings of what she might be like. Over the years, the top 3 on my preferred list of possible moms were: number 1, volunteer; number 2, business; and, of course, number 3, nursery. I had pretended she was one of those smiling moms who came to school twice a week, volunteered in class, and helped with yard duty. She invited my friends over after school and was president of the parent-teacher group, and all the teachers fought over me every year because they knew if they got me in their class, they would get my wonderful mom too. Sometimes I imagined a business mom who wore suits and fancy scarves, diamond earrings, and high heels that clickety-clicked down the halls. She would visit my class on career day and talk about her important job in a big office in San Diego. I even thought she might be like some of the moms who worked in the plant nursery nearby. She'd wait on the corner to walk Owen and me home from school every afternoon, wearing a green-stained apron and holding a bouquet of flowers. But right off the mark, Skyla didn't match my list or fit the pictures in my head. I did have one recollection of my father in Mexico. Owen and I were huddled in a room near the ocean. I could hear thunder and lightning and waves crashing. It was raining so hard, the roof leaked, and when I looked up through the sprinklers of water, I saw a swirl of colors. A bobbing, dangling dance of pink and blue and yellow above my head. What could that have been? A dream? I remembered Owen pointing to the ceiling and laughing in that way he had, like a batter of coughing and giggling. I rocked him, afraid to move off the bed. I cried and cried until our father rushed in. He swooped us up in his arms and took us to an old church where people had gathered, seeking safety from the storm. We were in a basement, cots set up in rows, and women serving soup. I remembered crying into my father's flannel shirt, which tasted salty. To get my mind off the thunder and lightning, we found a bar of soap and carved an elephant. He gave it to me, and I fell asleep clutching it. When I woke up, he was gone, and he never came back. Bernardo always said my talent for carving must have been passed from my father's hands to mine. I would have rather had my father. I pried the rest of the story out of Graham when she got older, or when I got older. She explained that our father had been out on a fishing trip, and our mother was supposed to be watching us. She had taken off, though, on a shopping trip to Tijuana and left us alone to babysit ourselves in the motel room. Then the storm hit. Nobody could find our mother for days. She finally showed up at the church a week later, packed us up, and took us back to Lemon Tree. She told Graham that she couldn't handle 2 kids by herself, especially with one of them deformed. A few days later, she was gone too. I squirmed in bed, trying to get comfortable, but my mind was still a jumble. I finally got up and pulled a box from the drawer under my bed. I opened it and carefully dug through my soap carvings of turtles, dogs, and reptiles, and pulled out a family of elephants. I arranged them on the built-in shelf above my bed, all in a line, trunks to tails. Then I put my head down on my pillow and closed my eyes, the caravan of milky statues guarding my dreams. That is the end of chapter